Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Lifegiving Home, Creating a Place of Belonging and Becoming, by Sally and Sarah Clarkson. Narrated by Donna Postel. Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Psalm 127, verse 1. The adventure begins. The adventure started on a whim. With a suitcase in my left hand, a laptop case and tote on my shoulder, and the luggage cart dragging behind me, I stumbled against the door of Suite 209 and pushed it open with my shoulder. The cart lurched over the doorstep, propelling me farther into the room as I grabbed for the door, laughing at my decidedly ungraceful movements. With one toe balancing the cart and my finger just on the doorknob, I held the door open for Sarah, my 19-year-old daughter, who was lugging the laundry basket of extras we had thrown in for our week of retreat. Electric tea kettle, printer, candles, chocolate, all the necessities. When she was safely inside, I gratefully dropped a few bags on the couch and breathed a sigh of deep relief. We were finally, blessedly, here. After several months of planning, several more months of crazy living, and a 4-hour drive through a mountain pass, we had finally arrived. We had come here to Asheville, North Carolina, to write a book together. With my husband, Clay, busy with his own project, Joy, my youngest, off to a favorite auntie's house, and my 2 teenage sons away at camp, Sarah and I had decided to escape for a rare writing getaway. We were excited about this week of girl time and writing time in our favorite town. Asheville, as I describe in the next chapter, is nestled in the arms of the Blue Ridge Mountains and has an air of mountain coolness that we absolutely love. Though it is famous for the incredibly beautiful Biltmore estate nearby, it is also graced with dozens of lovely little shops, delightful cafes, and an excellent tea room, just the places we would want to go in our moments of relaxation in between long hours of writing. Instead of holing up in the usual small motel room, we had even splurged and booked a suite, complete with kitchen and a living room, at a well-known hotel chain. We wanted everything to be beautiful and cozy as we sequestered ourselves away to do our work. But now, as we stood in our suite with all our excited expectations chattering in our minds, we peered around, searching for the expected coziness. We had yet to see any sign of it. First of all, as we approached the registration desk, we'd had to walk alongside construction tape that kept us out of a work area. Just as we initialed the final form, a jackhammer had begun to pound away so that we had to shout to each other to be heard. And as to our accommodations, well, the kitchen and living room were definitely there, but that was about all that could be said of them. The floor was covered in stained, thin, nondescript gray-brown carpet, with a large wet spot in the middle that smelled of Lysol. A cheap, stiff couch with nary a pillow was pushed up against one wall. Old, torn wallpaper covered the kitchen walls, and the unmistakable smell of strong cleaning solution from the sink assaulted our noses. A sudden silence fell. It didn't last long, though, for we quickly realized our room was right next to the elevator. A metallic ding-ding sounded every 2 minutes or so, and through the paper-thin walls we heard the voices of the maids chattering in the laundry room next door. I plopped down on the couch, a huge sigh rising in my throat, and looked at Sarah. Weariness seemed to hover as a cloud around both of us, and I let the sigh out with a sort of groan attached. Well, I thought, trying desperately to be optimistic, maybe if we light a candle the smell will go away, and if we borrow some pillows from the bed. Then I just gave up. There wasn't much chance of making this room cozy. The excitement of the last hours suddenly drained from me, and my body and mind both went limp. Just sitting in that room made me feel lonely and depressed, neither of which is a good condition for writing a book on life-giving. From the look on Sarah's face, I knew she felt the same way. Now, you must know we are not picky people. In fact, traveling has made us quite flexible and resourceful. This room threatened to overwhelm our usual resourceful optimism. But what else could we do? I knew nothing of the other hotels around town, and I really wasn't sure this one would release us from our reservation. I reached up to my temples, trying to rub away an emerging headache. Then it popped into Sarah's mind that we had passed a bed and breakfast on our way into town. Though our family had traveled extensively, we had never stayed at a bed and breakfast because they're rarely set up to handle 6 people at a time. But there were just 2 of us now, so maybe we could find a more personal and comforting atmosphere at a convenient B&B. On this impulse, she grabbed the nearby phone book and flipped to the bed and breakfast section of the Yellow Pages. She picked 3 with large ads that were located in the part of town we knew best. Then we took turns dialing. The first 2 were dead ends. As Sarah dialed the 3rd, I kept trying to imagine 5 days in that barren, smelly room. Please. The phone rang several times before the man on the other end picked up. Hello, I just arrived in Asheville this afternoon. Well, congratulations, said the friendly voice on the other end. With his deep voice, the man sounded like a radio host. This is more like it. We need a place to stay and work on a project. Do you have any rooms available? We discovered, to our excitement, that he had a suite, a large bedroom with a small workroom attached. I explained that we needed a place to work on a book. So you're writers, he said. Yes, I replied. Actually, we're in Asheville expressly to get started on our book. In that case, you have to stay here, he said. This is the right inn, and the room I have available is the right suite. The perfect place for writers, don't you think? We're located in an old, quiet neighborhood, and once everyone is gone in the morning, you'll have practically the whole house to yourselves. Oh, there's a nice, big front porch as well. No, I didn't use writer's license to make any of this up. Every part of it actually happened. I think we were sold right then and there, but the proprietor said we could come and see the space first to make sure it was adequate for us. The dismal vision of 5 miserable days was fading fast away. Before we left, we checked at the front desk of our current hotel and found they would graciously release us from our reservation. Others had also canceled their reservations because of the noise and dust from the building project. So with a sense of new freedom dancing around us, we hopped in the car and zoomed to the downtown neighborhood where the Wright House was located. The streets were narrow, shadowed by the branches of tall old fir and oak trees that had watched 100 years or more pass in those quiet lanes. The houses were a century old as well, with heavy wooden front doors and tall windows with antique panes gazing out from beneath deep covered porches that held rocking chairs and baskets of flowers. We rounded a corner, and the Wright House came into view, a dignified 3-story mansion surrounded by a small lawn, tall trees, lots of maroon and yellow mums, and some red roses having their last fling on that October day. We walked up stone steps onto a deep, rambling porch with white wicker chairs set in cozy corners. The innkeeper, Mark, welcomed us at the door, carrying a silver tray with 2 crystal glasses of sparkling apple juice, as well as a plate of whole-grain crackers, sliced cheeses, and Concord grapes. "Sparkling juice or a small bite for your refreshment?" he asked, ushering us through the front door. I felt as if I had somehow jumped back 100 years. Candles flickered on the mantel of a fireplace. Rich rugs and intricately carved furniture adorned the common rooms. And just beyond them, a tall, dark wooden door stood invitingly open. "This is the right suite," Mark said. as we stepped through that door into a spacious room that glowed with soft light from the big windows and lamps on the bedside tables. A big Victorian bed was piled high with pillows and a comfy-looking duvet. The high windows peered out into a garden spot where squirrels played in the pine branches, and a beautiful fireplace occupied the left wall. A patterned rug covered part of the gleaming wood floor, and gilt-framed pictures hung against pale gold wallpaper patterned with yellow rose bouquets. Beyond the bedroom, another tall door opened onto a little nook of a room with a small table and 2 deep chairs perfectly suited for a pair of laptop computers. I couldn't help but notice the many candles around the room, and the CD player with a stack of instrumental music beside it. Beyond our nook was one last door that led out onto our own little stretch of porch with a view of the lovely autumn garden. I honestly don't know if anything could have been more perfectly arranged for us. There was no question of whether or not we would take the right suite. In my mind, the right suite for writing, for the conviction was growing in our hearts that all this had somehow been arranged, that care had been taken to prepare a place for us, a rare and generous treat. Now I am propped up on that high Victorian bed, writing this introduction, utterly surrounded by beautiful things that give life to my soul. We have been here for 2 days, and I can guarantee that you will be reading a much more inspired book because of it. The air is chilled today, so our fireplace is filled with cheery, crackling flames. The candles are lit, a piano is playing in the living room, and there is a sense of warmth and beauty all around. The very richness of this room brings life to my soul, and that is what this book is all about. How to create a home that nourishes, nurtures, and sustains life and beauty. It is all about how to order your living space and what happens there to embody the joy and beauty of God's own Spirit. In the end, God used our little adventure as a living illustration of what my daughter and I want to share in this book. We want to show women, and men if they're interested, how to create a space that supports vibrant, joyful, productive living and supports growth of body, soul, and spirit. Sure, people can survive in the barren sterility of a chain hotel room, but the impact of such a place is soul-deadening. Home was intended to be so much more than just a place of bare essentials. If we look at the lovely world that God has designed for us, we can see a pattern for what He has always intended for us. A home environment filled with color and creativity and order. A welcoming provider of laughter and refuge. A space where memories are made and shared. Instead of creating us to live in a house of weariness and colorlessness, God has made us to live in a home full of soul-beautiful elements. I have a sneaking suspicion that these new discoveries of loveliness as I research and prepare this book will change me, you, and even the world because of lives that will ultimately be changed within a real, God-honoring, vibrant home. That was then. I wrote all of the above 12 years ago. That's how long this book has been on my heart, and how long it has taken for it to become reality. Despite the loveliness of that week in Asheville, other projects and commitments soon took over, and the Lifegiving Home languished on the back burner. But those 12 years were not wasted. They gave my Sarah a chance to grow up, and me a chance to grow as a wife and mother, a teacher and a writer, a woman of business and a woman of home. They gave us many Sunday afternoons to thumb through Victoria magazines over steaming cups of tea, to attempt new recipes and spring them on the family, to visit a variety of countries and stay in all sorts of homes all over the world. Over those years, we invested countless hours talking, dreaming, and planning how to make home in a way that would minister beauty and rest. inspire study, stimulate conversation, and celebrate relationship. We also collected stories from our life together, stories that began on that profound moment more than 30 years ago when I held my newborn daughter in my arms. The story of home. Dark blueberry eyes gazed intensely up at me, and I couldn't tear my own eyes away. I was starstruck with my first beautiful baby. And in a moment of startling clarity, I had a vision of the home I wanted to provide for her. Truly, for me, it was a defining moment. My mind was suddenly filled with images of what home could be. I found myself dreaming of the kind of environment I wanted Clay and me to provide for this little 7-pound gift. I wanted us to do whatever we could to shape the potential locked in the heart, soul, and mind of this little one. Together, we would create an environment that nurtured her and helped her grow. No, we didn't know what we were doing, but with God's help, we were determined to try. So that's where our shared story began, with a baby and a dream. Before Sarah turned 5, she had acquired 2 brothers, first Joel, then Nathan. Quite a few years later, little sister Joy came along. Our work took us to Vienna, Austria, California, and 16 other places in between. Our home became noisy, messy, and full of life as our family began to celebrate what it meant to be Clarksons together. The vision of home that began in me the day Sarah arrived grew clearer and more compelling, and Clay and I worked to make our home into a place where our little ones felt a sense of belonging. We did our best to give them roots through creating and honoring family traditions, encouraging celebration, teaching them to cherish the ways and beauty of our God, and learning what we valued as a family. Others began to step into our home. Single adults from divorced families who found themselves lonely and isolated in professional jobs and wanted a place to be in community. Married couples with houses full of children but no support systems. International diplomats who had never known the love of God. Teachers and musicians seeking kindred spirits. Folk who were broken emotionally or just longing for a place to be welcomed. We learned how to welcome them, how to help them feel the welcome. Because I knew what it was like to live in a foreign country as a young, lonely missionary without a familiar place to go to when weary or overwhelmed, I wanted to provide a space of rest and refreshment for those who felt that way too. So we began to expand our understanding of what a life-giving home could be. With each new friendship, I had a deeper sense of the need for a place that knows us and welcomes us, with a family, genetic or otherwise, who will love us and be our companions through the ups and downs of life. People from all over the world passed through our doorways and stayed in our beds and feasted at our table over the years. Hosting literally hundreds of people as guests each year, we cultivated our rooms into refuges for weary ones and places to celebrate births and weddings, to give solace to the sorrowing, to nurture and sustain those who were ill or overcome with grief, and to offer love, friendship, and even counseling for those who needed it. Our home was the venue for feasts, Bible studies, concerts, holidays, birthdays, and intimate times with friends. In the process, our home began to have a story of its own. Years passed, and our children grew through each season of life. At times we pulled in together behind closed doors to deal with heartaches, disappointments, abandonment of friends, or church splits, though we also celebrated joys and had lots of fun. At these times, home grew into a place of refuge, comfort, familiarity, safety, pleasure, a port to keep us safe through the storms. During these years, God seemed to whisper to me in my quiet times, Give foundations of strength and inspiration to these precious ones, but give them wings as well. Prepare them to take risks, to live by faith, so that they can take the messages and cherished values they learned at home and share them with a hurting world. And so our home became a launching pad, a place of blessing, as we sent our beloved children on their way, hopefully strong, whole, and secure in the ideals, faith, and values that truly matter. They were taking His light out into the darkness, but our home remained the lighthouse they could return to for rest and restoration in between the adventures that took them into the world. This is now. As Sarah grew from child to teenager to best friend, she began to catch my vision for sharing the adventures our home had lived to tell. She graduated from high school, became an author in her own right, and traveled the world. Now she's studying theology at Oxford University in England, far from our family home. But she probably won't be alone for long. Joy, our youngest, is considering doing her master's in the United Kingdom. Our 2 boys have landed in Philadelphia and New York for now. And yes, there are days when Clay and I feel like we're rattling around in an empty house. But not often, because that house is still home base for our family. It's the hub to which we all return to refuel before venturing out once more. And it's the headquarters for ongoing works of collaboration, such as this book, which is finally coming to fruition after all these years. You see, we never lost the vision that sent us to Asheville 12 years ago. If anything, the years have sharpened and deepened our convictions and our desire to share them. Finally, despite crazy schedules, hundreds of life interruptions, and chronic lack of time, we decided to make the Lifegiving Home a reality. We felt the world needed this book, and our publisher agreed it was a good idea. So I decided to travel to Europe during one of Sarah's school breaks so we could do the bulk of our writing together. Joel was interviewing for a job in England and said he would love to tag along. Because international travel and living have been such a part of our lives, I found a lovely little apartment for rent just east of Paris, with a full kitchen and living room, for less than $200 a week. The 3 of us landed there and immediately started making it home for our week together. Tramping through light rain to the closest village grocery store, we loaded up on crusty bread, local cheese, berries, yogurt, a sparkling bottle of juice, and 3 small quiches. Back home, we lit candles in our small living room, wrapped a scarf around a small jar of roses I had bought, and arranged our recent purchases on the table. We relished celebrating home together in this different place. The sense of familiar belonging, with a small feast laid out in the peaceful twilight. What a joy to be with those we know and love so well. The next day, Sarah and I got to work, sharing ideas, outlining possibilities. And because we are a highly collaborative family, Joel joined in with many of our discussions. In a sense, he is a third author of this book because he contributed so many ideas and stories. Eventually, he became co-author of the companion planner, The Lifegiving Home Experience. When it came to actually putting the words together, Sarah and I divided up the chapters. I wrote half, and she wrote half. Then we responded to each other's offerings. I hope you'll keep this collaborative process in mind as you read this book. Sarah and I have very different writing styles, and our perspective, of course, is different. I write as a mama who developed my home ideals through the years and applied them with trial and error and lots of grace. Sarah writes as a young adult who grew up in our home and is learning to create home for herself. But the 2 of us, and Joel, shared the same family culture and share much of the same vision. You'll find that some themes will be repeated more than once because they reflect the same unique home environment, and because each of us wanted to give our own impressions of what we valued, So you'll read a lot about tea times. Can there be too much mention ever of tea times? Books and stories. Again, never too much mention. Traditions, spiritual rhythms and practices. Feasting, celebrating life, and understanding the importance of beauty to satisfy our souls. We hope you'll bear with us through this repetition and enjoy the dual perspective. We also hope you will take the time to visit our dedicated website, www.lifegivinghome.com. We had so many ideas to share that we could not possibly fit them all into this book, so we have put them on the website. There you will find lists and links for books to read, movies to watch, resources to gather, and things to do with your family. Plus, a place where others can contribute their own ideas. Look for our website prompts throughout this book. For the record, we did do everything this book recommends, at least once. Many of the practices were ongoing. We did them every year, no matter what. Others were enjoyed for a year or two, and then abandoned as our family evolved. Some practices were suspended during times of stress. Moves, illnesses, traumatic circumstances, or just the need to simplify. But others were what kept us sane during those same times of stress. I suspect you will find the same is true of you. Don't hesitate to make adjustments and keep on learning as you and your family journey together. But always keep in mind that wherever you are, you can create a life-giving home that will become a significant part of your family's story. How we need more homemakers so that all who live in this transient contemporary world might have a place to belong, to feel loved and valued, to serve and be served, to give and receive, and celebrate all that is good. So make a cup of tea, light some candles, and sit down in your comfiest chair as you begin to journey with Sarah and me through the ideas and possibilities that take you right into the center of your own heart and home. May God's richest blessings be with you as you dream, create ideas for your own family, and flourish in the creativity of mind and soul that comes with being God's child, made in His likeness and destined for an eternal home with Him. Part 1. Thinking about Home. 1. A Life-Giving Legacy. Sally. The wise woman builds her house, but the foolish tears it down with her own hands. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 1. Leaves of crimson, gold, and brown drifted down upon the roof of our car as we slowly meandered on the winding road, gazing out at the mysterious woods on either side of us, and the flowing stream that seemed to follow our course. The sweet, melancholy notes of a Celtic CD streamed through the car, as each of us lost ourselves for the moment in our own dream worlds. In that season of my life, as the mother of 3 teenagers and a bubbly little 7-year-old girl, I rarely had a quiet moment. This drive provided a soothing moment, a badly needed opportunity just to breathe. The soft music lured me to a secret escape inside, while the pathways leading through shadowy woods captured my imagination, providing a momentary break from mundane reality. And how I needed that! My heart was desperate for some new inspiration and rest from my draining and demanding days. Would I find it on this trip? All 6 of us Clarksons had piled into our van to get away to Asheville, North Carolina, for a weekend of family adventure and escape. Now we were approaching the Biltmore, the famous home that George Washington Vanderbilt II planned and constructed more than 100 years earlier. We rounded a bend, and a stand of tall, shimmering ash trees opened up to a breathtaking view. The grand, tree-lined entrance in front of us led to a 4-story French chateau-styled structure. Designed as the dream project of Mr. Vanderbilt's life, Biltmore stood with castle-like grandeur against a dramatic backdrop.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?